in a little bit closer. It's pretty windy. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Today we honor the second anniversary of Sean Monterosa being murdered in this location by Vallejo police. Sean's family is not going to be here today. They kind of went back and forth. They were in town earlier today, but they just couldn't come to the place where he was murdered. They didn't want to stand here, but they wanted us to hold space and honor him. And most importantly, to ask the community to do a few things in honor of Sean. They wanted me to share that they spent several hours this afternoon meeting with the chief of police and trying to figure out what happened recently with the termination of the officer that killed Sean. How do we move forward from there? What's the plan? What's the goals? And one of the things that was made very apparent is that we as a community are going to have to get in contact with every city council member, the city attorney, and the city manager, and we're going to have to demand that they continue to pursue the termination of Officer Jarrett Ton. As some people know, the chief recommended him for termination. It then goes to a Scully hearing, and it goes to a hearing officer, and they have what's called like a non-binding hearing, meaning it's not final. And so that initial person who said that Officer Ton should go back to work is one of the sort of good old boy Vallejo network people, somebody who's been doing business with the city and the county for years. And so obviously super problematic that the city attorney's office is still hiring the same people who come with the same bad conclusions.
Amen.
So we have to put pressure on them to make sure that they understand it's not acceptable for us, for this fucking murderer to come back on patrol, because what do we then do with him?
Exactly.
We know that
he
should be in prison, right? Should be in
That's
prison
right.
like a criminal, right? Sean was not the first person he shot. Wasn't the first person he shot at. Wasn't the first unarmed person that he had shot at. Jarrett Ton participated in the shooting of a young man who survived that they shot, I believe, 8 times, who had his hands up. They shot his fingers off. In that shooting, he shot that man from the back seat of a pickup truck with an AR-15. Pretty much exactly what happened with Sean, except for that man, he survived his injuries. 2 times after that, Officer Jarrett Ton found individuals in the community that he decided shouldn't be alive and tried to shoot unarmed people, at least one of them in the back, and there's a video of it. Him from a block away trying to shoot down an unarmed person. Over and over and over, he imagines guns and tries to use deadly force on unarmed people. And it's gonna be our job to make sure that Sean was the last person, because part of the burden for the Monterosa family and all the other families that have been impacted by police violence in Vallejo is trying to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's one officer we know is dangerous, and so we're gonna ask, we'll do this through social media and also through you individually. We want you to make sure that the council, city manager, and city attorney know that it is your desire that Officer Jarrett Ton is no longer employed with the city of Vallejo. Like I said, they have to take an additional step. If we do nothing, then he comes back.
That's right.
And we already know he's not just a ticking time bomb, he's already exploded. He's toxic and he's bad. There's a lot of bad officers here, but they've already got a termination on him, so he's a good starting point. It also, one of the things that came up during that meeting was, why is it so hard to get rid of this guy who the chief of police has said, get out of here? That everyone in the community has said, get out of here. And we came to the understanding that the reason why these officers continue to do this and be able to continue to save their jobs is the police officers' Bill of Rights. And so one of the next moves that we're going to be trying to do with the impacted families and supporters up in Sacramento is going to be getting one of our state legislators who's willing to do an amendment for the police officers' Bill of Rights. Because if it interferes with, if the chief of police can't fire people and wants somebody fired and can't get rid of them, then it doesn't work. This is not my opinion. This is the opinion of the guy who has to lead the charge on getting rid of the bad officers. And so it's interfering with reform. And so we think there'll be some support in Sacramento. There's been support for other initiatives that are related to police violence, and this is an easier one. It's an amendment of something that doesn't work. Police officers should not have more rights than we do as employees. They shouldn't have to. If I
They're
did
not
something
special.
There's no other line of work where a person gets all of these opportunities to not get fired. I know if I'm an attorney, if I steal $10 from my client, I could get disbarred. Why? Because we have to be accountable. And these are the people that we have heavily armed on our streets and zero accountability. And so those two things are going to be initiatives that the families are asking the community immediately to contact the council. We're going to be doing a city council meeting where we want this to be sort of the agenda piece that folks are asking for. But in the meantime, right now the city is balancing back and forth whether they want to actually do any meaningful police reform.
That's right.
The city attorney doesn't want to do any meaningful police
she
reform.
doesn't. She doesn't.
She's been very clear.
She doesn't. It's a personal matter.
Yeah, we made it. It's not a personal matter. It's a criminal matter.
It's not.
And so, one of the things that has been proposed, we put in as a demand on behalf of the impacted families that are in litigation and the ones that aren't, is a police commission and an inspector general. The chief of police has said that he supports that. He's gone forward to the city to say that he supports that. The impacted community and their supporters support that. So why aren't we doing what the chief of police and the people that have been harmed want? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
So we want the community, when they come forward, to come forward in support of the demands of the impacted family that we now have the co-signing of the chief on, and to compel Tom to get fired. Those are what the family would like you guys to do as action items, because the families have come together for years and years and years and cried and rallied, and we need to do actionable items. You know, the family believed that Ton was fired and he was going to be gone. And now we realize, no, it's not that easy. It's not that simple. And there are obstacles to that we can work on to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again in Vallejo. Today is the 2-year anniversary of Sean getting killed. Is also a bittersweet Memorial Day for the community, because we've now gone 2 years without Vallejo police killing anybody.
Yeah.
And we can't celebrate that because the way we mark that time is Sean's death.
Yes.
Before Sean, we marked that time with Willie's death. Before that, it was Ronell and Angel, and going back and back and back. And so we want to acknowledge our thankfulness, and we thank God that during these last 2 years we haven't had to meet any more families, because it rips open the wound of every impacted family and everybody that cares about them every time a police officer guns somebody down. We also need to, as a community, make some kind of a stand on what we find to be acceptable about this badge bending scandal.
Oh, Lord.
Because I assure you, there's already enough that's out in the public record that there should be some sort of criminal investigation going on.
Yes.
And why isn't it? And how many of us have called to demand that it happens?
So many.
And, you know, and so we need to, and the ones that have, we need to get our neighbors and our friends and community members. The Monterosa family has suggested, and they would be part of, and want you guys to get on board with, is knocking on doors if we have to get people aware of what's going on. This is a bedroom community, and people out here tend to have no idea what the fuck is going on.
That's right.
And as a result of that, people in their ignorance just go to work, come home, go to work, don't realize all this corruption is happening underneath their nose, and most people don't realize until it's their family.
That's
until
right.
their loved one gets killed. And so we want to get the community more involved and more engaged, but that obviously takes community members to get out there and knock on doors. So if you are willing to knock on doors for the DA's race, or your favorite city council person, we need you to knock on doors about police reform, about the badge bending. We need people to actually physically get involved, because honestly, it's shocking to anybody familiar with what happened and with the badge bending, all the things that are public. It's shocking that this is not international news.
Yeah.
One of the Vallejo police officers got on the witness stand in open court and said that he and one of his supervisors, Captain Tribble, were out, and he shot at a man, and Tribble ran up to him, frothing at the mouth, bitterly angry, saying, "You stole my dinner." Talking about a human fucking being, that he was upset because the other officer had got the kill before he did. Because they made this a game of killing members of our community. And how do people in this community not know about this?
Exactly.
Like, there are people, I run into people all the time that have no idea what's going on, that frankly think I'm crazy. And I'm going, no, there are transcripts, there are court records. I'm not making this up. Everybody has seen these things now, and so we have to figure out how we as a community can do something about it, because nobody else is going to come save us. We've seen that time and time again. But
nobody.
You know, I think we're in a good position right now, as opposed to even where we were a couple years ago, because people are starting to see that police are not the heroes that they had been taught to believe that they were. You know, as we see across the country, different things the police are doing. A woman recently, a pregnant black woman, shot in the back multiple times by the police. Thank God survived. We just saw in Texas how the heroes that we pay all this money to go in and fight crime are a bunch of cowards. The only people they're willing to shoot are unarmed men, sleeping people. They're only willing to take on fights with people that they have outnumbered and outgunned. And why are we paying them all this money? So I think we're at a good time for the community to finally go, like, why do we need all these people? Why do we need some guy that's making $100,000 to come to take a police report? He's not going to investigate, right? He's going to jot down information.
Exactly.
Why can't a guy that's getting paid $30 an hour do that, right? Create jobs in our community. Most of the issues with mental health, addiction, housing, this has nothing to do with police. They don't need guns.
No.
You know, and so it's a time to really start figuring out how we can force the restructuring of the community we live in. Where it goes, we don't know, but we know that at this point, the chief has presented himself to the Monterosa family as an ally in what they're trying to do on reform. Because frankly, the police department and the POA is so racist, and they're so opposed to him because he's a black man.
That's right.
That right now he's in a position where he's going to need some allies.
Yeah.
And we can be the allies to the chiefs of police that want to reform police department. Not necessarily the bedfellows I would like to have, but at the end of the day, the families are the ones that lead what we do and the way that we move. And that's what that's the way that they want to move. They invite other people, other families, other community members to support them. But they also said they thoroughly respect families that don't want to have those conversations with chiefs of police. Because at the end of the day, that person still represents the force that caused the death of their family members. But they want to use the momentum and really the shock that they received to find out the Ton isn't gone. They want to use that momentum and that energy and that anger to do something productive. And so we want to support that in any way that we possibly can. Just for people that aren't super familiar, 2 years ago, late at night, we started hearing people reporting scanner traffic. It was obvious something had happened here and nobody knew what it was. People were sending me scanners. And you hear them saying shots fired, but we keep listening to the scanner. We knew that somebody had been shot, but they didn't call an ambulance. And so we knew they had killed the person. And it was hours and hours and hours later before they called the ambulance. And why do you call an ambulance on a man that's been dead for hours? Except for to move his body out of the crime scene so you can continue to conceal what you did to him. The next day, the city of Vallejo had a press conference where they gathered people up. Alicia was there. I think we were the only people that were there. The city tried to do it on the sly. Somebody called me, they're like, they're going right now. So we rushed down there, got there, and they did a press conference with all the city leaders, the county supervisors, the scammy pastors that support the police department blindly. And they literally offered condolences to the business community that had had property damage the night before. They didn't even mention killing Sean. They didn't say anything. They said they'll have another press conference the following day. So they waited 2 days to tell us that they had killed a young man when we all knew about it days later. We were chasing them. I think it was Alicia. Weren't you trying to chase the mayor, trying to get him to say, just tell us you killed somebody? We know. And they wouldn't. And so the following day, to the second day afterwards, they finally do this press conference, and the chief of police tells this story. And honestly, we thought he was telling a story based on something he had seen with his eyes. That's the way it read. It read like he had seen the video of what happened to Sean. That allegedly doesn't exist now, right? But when he told that story, he told the story of Sean getting down on his knees in a position of as if to surrender to the police, to go to jail, which is what probably should happen, right? And instead, when the media began to ask questions, because they're going, wait a minute, you shot a man that was kneeling with his hands up? Then it started, the story changed, and about halfway through it, the chief stopped taking questions and just took off. And so at that point, we knew something terrible had happened, but didn't know. We didn't know. We were being told that Sean, they thought he had a gun, he didn't have a gun. And then they tell us some other story about how he was shot in the back of the head. Well, how could any of this have happened in the same story they're telling? Because you're talking about somebody sitting down for surrender. How you shoot that guy in the back of the head? So I ended up going to the mortuary. Unfortunately, something I have to do more often than I would like. And it became very apparent it wasn't just the city. By the time Sean got up to the coroner's office, they didn't even really thoroughly examine his bullet wounds. I used to be a deputy coroner, and so I used to do this. One of the things I've seen a lot, far more shooting cases than I would like to, anytime a person is shot in a place where they have hair, like on their head, they shave the area so you can properly document and see what happened, part of the autopsy. Sean had what appeared to be an exit wound in the back of his head. They hadn't even shaved the hair. They didn't make any efforts to actually determine what happened. There's no way they could have documented it because he still had hair on his head. And so it sort of lined up some of the things that we've already known. It's not just the officers, right? Is that they've got people conspiring with them at the county level.
That's right.
When the bodies get to the coroner's office, they're short shrifting or improperly documented. We've seen it in many counties. But here where you have a person who has one wound, he had one bullet wound, and they didn't do anything to make any efforts to actually document it. And now he's gone, right? To this day, we're never gonna know what happened to Sean. We're never gonna know where he was at. Because I know I was in a room full of people in the mortuary, and we all agreed that Sean had an exit wound, an entry wound in his neck and an exit wound out of the back of his head. But the police are telling us he was shot in the back of the head. Something doesn't make sense.
That's right.
And the more we've heard about Sean's case, the more it stank. We started hearing about Ton and all the people he's tried to kill before. We started hearing about the commanders that were here. The Captain Horton, he's been trying to retire for PTSD leave for years. They won't let him go. He's the one who's imagined the gun that resulted in Sean getting killed. We started seeing all of these things, and the next thing you know, the drone that we know was out the night that Sean got killed, and I've personally spoken to somebody who's seen footage from the drone, and then suddenly the footage was all gone. It's gone to the FBI. And they said they can't tell that it possibly was wiped out by somebody. Well, we know they had footage because we know that people were explaining what happened like they were seeing it. And we know that people saw it. And I personally know somebody who's seen it, but then it disappeared. And unfortunately, like everything else, people are scared to death. Nobody wants to be the person that's gonna come forward and say they saw the thing because they know what's happened to the people that were witnesses in Vallejo before. Some of them have been killed by the police. Some people in Vallejo have been witnesses to police shootings that have died by the hands of the police shortly afterwards. So people have righteous fear.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that this case has shown us is that this department is so densely and irreparably corrupt that nothing other than a miracle is gonna reform it. And so now that we're in a place where the badge bending has been exposed, all of this corruption, all this horrible stuff has come out, we're in a place to say, no, this isn't your normal run-of-the-mill police situation. Most police departments don't have officers that are engaging in rituals. Well, some of them do. We have the fortune that they started snitching on each other, right? That the officers actually started coming in because they were starting to point one at another, that they started going, no, it was this one. No, it was this one. But now we have live sworn testimony, court testimony, and that should mean something. These aren't the rumors that we had a year or two ago. Now that we have this tangible evidence, this is evidence that we can take to the Attorney General's office, the Federal Attorney General's office. We can submit, we're going to have sort of a list of things to do. One of them is going to be to submit a complaint of civil rights violations to the Fed DOJ. If you get enough of them, and they have to review all of them. So if you get 100 or 200 or 500 coming out of Vallejo talking about the badge banning, referencing the police reports and the courtroom testimony, how do you turn a blind eye to that? Because there's a lot of bad policing going on in America, but how many of those officers are hunting down civilians and referring to them as dinner? As far as I know, this is the only one where we have that kind of tangible evidence that's been said in open court by Vallejo police officers, and still we don't know anything about it. And so there's going to be a lot of action items coming up. The family wants to have a lot of action going on in June, especially in relationship to the police reform, because the city council is going to get ready to vote on it. We need the council to understand we don't want the reform they're offering. What they want to do is give us the tiniest Band-Aid.
No, we don't want that.
We've got a pile of bodies. What we need is a police commission and an inspector general, because that means that the police aren't investigating themselves.
Thank you.
You can't let the people and their friends. If I killed somebody, they're not going to let my friends investigate. It'd be nice, right? But they won't. It wouldn't be. There would be an obvious bias. And so, getting that commission in place, doing the type of reform that other departments have done that resulted in less people dying, is something that has to happen here. It's untenable to continue this. There's no way that this pattern that the city's undertaking as we speak is not going to result in bankruptcy. There's no way. It's impossible, and The only people that can't see it right now, I suspect, are sitting in the city attorney's office. And so we need to have some real conversations about whether we think the people that we put into these places are qualified to lead us.
They're not.
In these kind of situations. Because
They're not.
when I'm hearing from people that the city attorney's telling folks that if we do police reform, that I can use it against them in court, it's just not true. It's like fundamentally wrong about the law.
She's a
How
liar.
does the city attorney fundamentally not understand the law? That's a problem. Why are we paying this lady $200 and whatever thousand
She's
dollars
not
a year?
competent.
Yeah, she's not competent, and she's not competent in the areas that are important. In the things, I wouldn't care if she got wrong land use law, but when you're talking about human beings, people that have been killed and murdered, and in ways that are clearly, obviously unlawful, and she's not prepared to do a comprehensive reform package, like I said, either they got one of her kids in the basement duct taped, or she's corrupt, or she's terrified. I don't know what it is, but there's no way any lawyer that is doing risk management, has any concern for this city, would not be trying to push reform. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to let them know whatever intimidation they're getting from the Police Officers Association, we need to be scarier than the Police Officers Association.
That's
by
right.
coming up and knocking on their doors. If that means that we need to go to those people's houses and do caravans like they were, doing a couple of years ago, we need to do whatever we can. Because if it doesn't happen now, it's never going to happen.
That's
It just-
right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't. We lost the wind of George Floyd, that season of outrage, that disappeared.
Yeah.
So now we have another little wind where people are starting to question the viability of having the police and what they're doing for us. And this is the city where they could start. You could start and make this city an example. Because either the city's gonna do it for themselves, or we as lawyers are gonna make examples of them. And we're not going to be kind in the way that we do that. And we're not going to be able to be concerned about the citizens at this point because they're not concerned about us. We don't want to do that. We don't want to bankrupt the city. We don't want the city to have to go to reform kicking and screaming. The families and the things that they've been through. Yeah, the families and the things that they've been through. That should be enough to compel the city to do what's right. And so, like I said, the Monterosa family is hopeful. They took the meeting that they had today as a positive step forward in justice for Sean, and they wanted to express how much they appreciate that people 2 years out are still here, because as we know, the more years you go out, the smaller the group gets.
Yeah.
It's smaller and smaller and smaller, and sometimes you just end up with a handful of people. So it's encouraging to see this many human faces that care about the murder victims. Oh yeah, we have other impacted families from Vallejo who need to speak, because I need people to understand. We got Rick, who's the community godfather of impacted families. I don't know what else to. We love you, Rick. For folks that are voters, we're all getting behind Sharon Henry for DA.
Yeah. Woo!
If you vote, a lot of people don't really care about the local stuff. They're not really concerned about the district attorney. Our district attorney, Krishna Blue Lives Abrams, when I first saw her Facebook profile, she had a Blue Lives Matter flag as her face. That was her profile picture.
Yeah.
And so,
KKK
yeah.
Krishna.
It's since come out that she's married to a police lieutenant.
Yeah.
She's married to a lieutenant from the Solano County Sheriff's Department that she's essentially responsible for overseeing. And she has a long history of laying down with dirty cops. Like,
Yeah.
that's her thing. That's her kink, right? She likes dirty cops. And so a lady who likes sleeping with, for lack of a more appropriate word, my kids
That's
are
what
here.
she's doing.
Yeah, we know what she is. When I was a cop, we used to call those badge bunnies, women that had a thing for cops, right? They'd meet them in bars. And that's what you called them. This lady's a badge bunny, and she happened to be our district attorney. So she's the person responsible for charging people. She refused to do the charging for Willie McCoy. She recused herself from that. Hired a scammy, retired racist from
She told
SoCal.
us Ronell's death was justified.
Yeah,
She sat across the table from me and told me that he bought that ticket.
Yeah, no, she's made it very abundantly clear she doesn't care about the law. She doesn't care about the impacted community. She cares about blue. She cares about blue people for sure. But it's also come up that she's also not turning over evidence to criminal suspects. So when an officer's been convicted of a crime or has engaged in documented misconduct, she's not turning over that evidence to the criminal defense. And that's a problem, because we all have a right to have a fair trial.
Yeah.
And if the cop that arrests me is a criminal, I have the right to know that. I have the right to question his credibility. And so it's been proven that she's done that. The people in her office don't want her there. I don't usually get involved in situations like this, but I know that Krishna Abrams is scary dangerous.
Needs to go.
Yeah.
She took the police endorsements of all of the police agencies in Solano County, except for Vallejo, because Vallejo doesn't endorse anyone now because it's the kiss of death. So they don't
Yeah.
endorse anybody. And so she took all the other endorsements. She took scammy Congressman Mike Thompson, Bill Dodd. These are people that are really Republicans masquerading as Democrats.
Yeah.
She took all of the police apologist endorsements, but as far as I know, she hasn't got any endorsements of real people. She's got no
No.
endorsements of any community leaders, or anybody that is concerned about ethics. She's basically got the white supremacist vote.
Yeah.
And we know it's a long shot in Solano County. Vallejo's cool. Vallejo will end up going for Sharon Henry. When she start getting that valley with the Klansmen and stuff, that's a little bit harder of a push. If you know people up in that area that are voters, just let them know. Krishna Blue Lives is a no. The last time she ran unopposed. And so the idea that we've had her for these last 4 years just because nobody else wanted to do the job, that's a shame on all of us, right? We should have found
Yes,
somebody that was
yes.
willing. Yeah, but we, and myself included, we just didn't know. We didn't know. A lot of us were just ignorant to the goings on and who was who. And now that we know, we just have to move those people out of place, whether they're city council, whether they're elected county supervisors. But yeah, if you're a voting person, she's the person that the impacted community out here and everybody that I know that's looking for some kind of justice is getting behind. Definitely want to hear from the impacted families. Angela. Is Ronald Foster's auntie mama. Ronald was killed in 2018.
Hey, my babies, how y'all doing?
Good, Mama.
We here
Best
to
we can do.
first of all celebrate Sean. Long live Sean Monterosa.
Long live.
I just want to say we really need y'all. Anybody that qualifies to vote in Solano County, we need to get Sharon Henry in office. Yeah. She's a district attorney that's been wronged by Krishna Abrams. And she won. We need to defeat this lady. She ran unopposed. This DA can help us. Sharon Henry can really help us. She'll prosecute. And that's what we need. We need somebody to stand up. About joining Shawnee Williams on that qualified immunity fight, I'm going to stand with him as long as that's what he's willing to help us do. We need very specific things done and changes made. But I'm for jail or hell. I'm trying to reach back. For all lives stolen. And if we can get the right DA in there,
Yes.
we can reach back, y'all.
Yes.
It's that simple, man.
That's right.
She has the power
Yes, she
to
does.
make them.
Yes.
Listen to what I said.
Listening.
We need this DA. You understand what I'm telling y'all? We need her. She got the power to say, okay, between her and Shawnee Williams, somebody going to jail or somebody going to hell.
That's right.
And I want them all.
They are going to hell.
Yes.
I want them all. I want their lives.
Yes.
I want their lives, period. And it's 14 plus 2. And that's just here in Solano County. So please, y'all, show up and show out.
That's right.
Any family members you got 18 or older, get them to the polls. It's time to teach these kids what voting really means.
Yes.
Show them what they voting for.
That's right.
Stolen lives, just what y'all voting for.
That's right.
We have to relive these deaths every day. At least I do in one way or another. There are no words to describe the hurt, the suffering, and the pain that's going on through all of our families right now. Our children are suffering. Our adults are suffering. The elders are suffering. We grieving. So we got to hold on to each other. We are the people and we have the power. Let's get this DA in here and show them who really got the power.
That's right.
Yes. Ryan McMahon is toting a gun right now that has vigilante justice tattooed on the butt of it.
Hell no.
That's the gun that he killed my child with. He used 3 weapons in a matter of minutes. He tased him. He beat him with the flashlight till his skull was in 3 pieces. And then he shot him 7 times, 4 times from behind. Let's go. That's one man. That's one man did that in a matter of minutes. That's hate that we don't need nowhere in this world,
That's right.
let alone in Solano County. So let's go, y'all. Let's go.
Amen.
That's right. Thank you, Logan.
My son wasn't shot in Solano County or in Vallejo, but the pain is great. And we have the same situation going on with we have a officer that wrote the police report on my son, who is running for sheriff in Contra Costa County, and he's sleeping with a judge, and he's he's bad mouthing the current sheriff, but they're all pieces of shit because they all their loyalty to the Blue Brotherhood and the law enforcement community, and ain't got a damn thing to do with us.
We'll get it. We'll get it. I promise.
I'm going to do a little Bible thumping right here. Lucifer was cast out of heaven because he thought he was greater than the Creator. And that's exactly what we got going on here with these police. They think they're better than us. They think they're a sovereign, the law enforcement community is a sovereign nation. They do not have to answer to anybody. They just continue to do what they do. Back to these corrupt DAs. The DA in Contra Costa County that was overseeing my son's case, he got 13 felonies against him, copped out to 1 felony for spending his campaign funds, and he tried to fake it and pay it back, but it was too late then. And anyway, it just goes to show you how corrupt they can be. And now we got a new one, and she's better. Her name's Becton, better Becton. But she says she can't get a jury of 12 to convict an officer. But I got news for her, and I keep telling her this all the time. Times are changing. We got people out here all the time having people that they know being murdered by police. So they're going to see this, and it's going to influence their opinion on these police are not the lily white people they claim to be. They're not. They're all liars. They're all crooked. They all, I remember experiencing this in my younger years with little things like speeding tickets and stuff, and they exaggerate that stuff. But I'm still alive. But now we're all experiencing it with murders and stuff. Every family I talk to, like Melissa said, I get around to a lot of these different things, and we all have the same story. It's all a bunch of lies. It's all a bunch of cover-ups, and it's all a bunch of the coroner's office run by the sheriff's office. So therefore, they put it out there. I investigated myself. I'm innocent. I guarantee you that.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Who's going to believe that?
Right.
You can't investigate yourself.
I just get back to the Bible thumping. Vengeance is the Lord's. God's going to get them. There's going to be a big ass corner in hell full of cops.
Yeah.
And we all know that. They just continue to lie. They continue to cover up for each other. But it's great to see all these families here that are standing up for what we believe is the wrongdoing that they did to Sean Monterosa, what they did to Angel Ramos, what they did to Ronell Foster. I could go on. Willie McCoy. I got to mention my son's name, Petey Perez in Richmond. He was killed by a bullshit cop who is now on post-traumatic stress disorder, getting $75,000 a year in disability pay, and he's working, and he still carries a gun. At least he's not a cop. But it just keeps on going. These pigs keep protecting each other, and we got to put an end to that. We got to stop them from. They need to be stopped from exploiting the prostituting the Constitution. You know,
That's right.
That's what they're doing. They're
That's
just
exactly
making it.
what they're doing.
That's exactly what they're doing. It's funny how prostitution and Constitution rhyme, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But it really ain't funny because they're doing it to us. So
Right.
we, that's why I'm in it. That's why Ron L. Foster's family's in it. That's why Sean Monterosa's family's in it. That's why we're all in it.
That's right.
We're going to stop them. We're going to thank God for these video cameras and stuff. We're seeing more and more lies every day. So, God, you want me to keep talking forever? Like I say, I'm grateful that there's so many concerned people that want to stop this stuff, and we got to get in their faces.
That's right.
We got to, again, back to Contra Costa County. This asshole, Ben Turiel, is running for sheriff. And he goes and he's writing on a ticket that says he's against how they killed Miles Hall in Walnut Creek. And he was a mental situation, and he's trying to ride on that coattail. But the ugly things he's told me face to face at Richmond police community police review commission meetings is like how Mario Woods in San Francisco deserved to be killed because he shouldn't be walking around high. He shouldn't be carrying a butter knife.
No.
He shouldn't be doing a lot of things. Well, we all seen the video of that on TV.
Yeah.
He had something in his hand, but he was not lunging towards the police. The police had their distance. The spot he was murdered in with 42 bullets, I believe it was, it was like a firing squad. Just go ahead and I think that's probably what they like to do is make sure the guy's dead because he can't talk.
Yep.
Then, and the same thing happened with my son's coroner's report. The trajectory of the bullets did not match what the police tried to put out there.
Lies. Yep.
The testimony from the officer was inconsistent with the evidence. And it was all done by an independent police review commission, who the guy was not a police officer, but it don't float because the police have all the power.
Yep.
So I suppose in Alameda County they're taking the coroner's office away from the sheriff's department, which is a good move. There goes a pig sheriff right there. Fuck you, pig.
Yep.
And
Oh yeah. All right.
so oh God, he's lucky my wife wasn't seeing him. She would have said a lot more worse things. So yeah, we got to separate these coroner's office from the sheriff's department. We got to separate the investigations from anybody related to the law enforcement community. We need independent people, lawyers or whatnot, to stop, to do actual investigations and not things that favor the pigs. The pigs keep playing us and playing the community. They called up my wife the other day on the phone and saying, we were looking for donations for the police. I know you are understanding the first responders are putting their lives on the line to protect the community. I better not say what she said. Anyway, so but there's kids over here. And then she proceeded to hang up on him, and which I told her she should have engaged. She should have just went on and let him say all this stuff. She should have recorded it. They got a lot of these people brainwashed in the fear factor, trying to think that we need them for protection.
Right.
And I, for one, will never call a cop
Me
ever
either.
again.
Me either.
And speaking of kids, some of the kids that witnessed my son's murder, I heard one say one day about something saying, I'm not calling the cops. I don't want no one to get murdered. And that's, you know, and that's the police that are making this mindset up in these kids. The kids, they're so innocent. They know what they see and they speak it. They speak the truth. They're not old enough to lie like a pig does, you know? So, oh God, I don't like talking about pigs. They fucking disgust me. They need to be stuck in a frying pan and fried. But, well, you know, the glory is going to be they're going to get stuck in hell and they're going to be smelling like bacon down there. They're, okay, so, oh man, I don't like speaking hate. I don't hate the police, but I hate what they did to me. I hate their lies. I hate anyone that wrongs people.
Yes.
And that's what they do. They, one thing I learned though is you can't use the power of prayer to wish harm on anyone. So I have to leave it to God to take care of my vengeance. And but in the meantime, we're all gonna vote against the KKK Krishna.
That's right.
We're gonna vote against. I'm gonna vote in my county against that pig that falsified the police report on my son. That's one thing you guys might be interested in is a year ago I did a podcast on KQED. It's On Our Watch is the name of the podcast, and it's 2020 hindsight. And it talks about how the police. It starts off with me and the police come into my house and they record that stuff when they come to your house to inform you of your loss. But they don't say a damn thing about the loss. They keep asking questions. They keep asking questions like, what was your relationship like with your son? And of course I said it was good. Was your son a drug addict? I said no. I mean, he experimented. What kid doesn't? But he wasn't a drug addict. So incidentally, they didn't find any drugs in his system when they did the autopsy. They did find alcohol. I guess we could call that a drug. But anyway, they tried to push that point as in he was higher than the legal limit to drive, but he wasn't driving. So what's that got to do with it? And it makes me wonder about that cop. How many cups of coffee did he have to get him so damn wired up that he had to sit there and start popping off his gun like he did?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Messed up.
And what else was he on? He probably was on steroids.
Yeah. Demand drug testing.
And yes, we got to demand drug testing. We got to demand more background checks. This cop that murdered my son, his father was a San Francisco police sergeant. He was known to run around the neighborhood with his gun out and intimidate people when he got chucoed, you know, when he got too drunk. And, you know, maybe back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, people accepted it. We're not going to accept that no more.
No more.
They hold us accountable for any little thing we do. So we got it. Yeah, you know.
They're
again,
not special.
Nobody look at the kid. Like I said earlier, the kids don't look up to him no more.
Nope.
And that's not a good thing. The cops are painting an ugly picture, and they try to blame us for bad mouthing them. And it's not us that's doing it. They're doing it to themselves. And they're so damn ignorant, they don't even know it. So, come on, someone else come talk. So the information I found out about the cop that murdered my son, I found it out from his cousin, who happens to be a Brown Beret, and she came up and told me all about his family, all kinds of stuff. She was actually a little afraid to approach me because she knows our pain. But I was very grateful to her for coming up and telling me so much information about him. It doesn't make my son come back, but it helps me understand the mindset of a pig. It helps me understand. I see it every day with everything that's said to us about the lies, how they cover up and everything. We keep seeing it. So we let someone else have a turn here. Another affected family member.
Hi, my
Thank
name
you.
is Addie Kitchen. My grandson was murdered in San Leandro, April the 18th, 2020. So my son was murdered in Alameda County, and because of Stephon Clark, who was murdered in Sacramento, they passed an Assembly Bill 392, which states the police are supposed to use as less lethal violence as possible. And because that bill was passed, the officer has been arrested and charged.
Good.
So we have been going to court. We've been to court. We will be going back to court on June the 16th for a disposition and setting date. And according to the DA, we're hoping that we will be going to court in the fall of this year. So I'm just asking everybody to pray for us, keep us in your prayers, and I'm here because I'm standing in solidarity with all the families that have been impacted.
Yes, Mama, yes.
Because we need to be together. We're a family. This is one of the largest families that I know in America when we talk about impacted families. So keep your head up. Don't let them discourage you. Continue to go to city council meetings, raise hell, let the mayor and city council know I'm not going nowhere. I pay for your salary to
That's
be here.
right.
And every day that room is open for city council meetings, you need to be there. Vallejo needs to be there in full force. Everybody. Because if it affects you, it
All of
affects
us.
everybody. It affects me, and I don't miss a city council meeting, even during the Zoom. I told the mayor will be your worst nightmare, and I meant every word of it. They know me. The city attorney knows me because I'm opening my mouth. I can't forget my grandson being murdered, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna let them forget.
That's
So keep
right.
on
That's
doing
right.
what you're doing. Don't let anybody intimidate you. Continue
Yes.
to be a force, because Vallejo can be a force. I grew up in Vallejo. My kids went to school in Vallejo. So you can be a force. We just need everybody to come together. This is the second protest I've come to in Vallejo. I was here earlier this month for Ronell Foster, and I am appalled that the city of Vallejo does not show up like they're supposed to. We are supposed to support each and every one of us, whether it impacted us or not.
That's
Your
right.
color makes it impact you. Brown and
Wake
black
up.
people, it affects us all, and we need to stand together and do what we have to do. Open your mouth. Don't be afraid. What they gonna do? Lock up everybody? I don't think
They
so.
can't. They can't lock us all up.
So
That's
we
for sure.
need to stand together. The city of Vallejo needs to stand together. More people in the city of Vallejo should be out here raising hell. There should not even be parking spaces in that lot. But I have not seen that, and I'm just really kind of appalled that the city of Vallejo does not support each other.
Speak on
Thank
it.
Yes.
you guys.
No,
Have a
you're-
good
you're
evening.
right.
I love you. And
You're
we
right.
are family.
Yes. Amen.
Hey y'all, I'm not gonna be too long. Cause we have to go. I'm the sister of Angel Ramos, who was killed here in Vallejo in 2017 by Officer Zachary Jacobson, Big Ass Jacobson. Again, I'm not gonna go full speech. I don't have the mental capacity. Tomorrow is Angel's birthday of what we consider would be his 27 in heaven. And so to not have the ability to celebrate that with my brother tomorrow, and then have to be here today, it's a lot. But tomorrow at 7 o'clock at my mom's house, we are having a balloon release, a candlelight, some cake, a few refreshments, nothing too big. Because we want it to be a celebration, it's different on like the death anniversaries, but this is a birthday, and we want to celebrate it, and we want it to be right. The address is 1722 Sacramento Street, here in Vallejo. For those that are familiar, you know where we stay. Again, that address is 1722 Sacramento Street. If you need the information, feel free to reach out to Melissa. She can further give that information. And we just really ask that, that we have community come out, because these days are the hardest. The anniversary, the death anniversaries, and the birthdays are always the hardest. Of course, we mourn throughout the year, but it's just something about these days that's just like, it's heavier. And so we just ask that you all, if you can, come out and support. If you want to bring something, balloon, candles, anything to help us, celebrate and commemorate the life of Angel Ramos. So just thank you all for showing out here today and supporting the family of Sean Monterosa and the rest of the impacted families. When you show it for one, you're showing up for all.
That's right.
And so just, again, thank you. I'm going to keep it light. I don't know if my sister wants to say anything. I'm put on the spot. No, it's heavy. It's a lot. Tomorrow's going to be a long, long day. So yeah, we hope to see you all. If you can't make it, we totally understand, but we do and really would wish you all come out and show up and support, because we can't just do it by ourselves as community. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Mama Angela, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say a quick prayer right quick. Father God, I want to say thank you for bringing each and every one that's here today. I love each and every one of y'all on purpose. None of us want to be here, but we have to be. We have to stand together. And I thank you, Lord, for giving us all the strength to keep going. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, but a family that prays together stays together.
Yes.
That's right.
Everybody, safe travels to and fro. And remember, Auntie Angela loves you. Jail or hell for them all.
That's right.
In the
love
mighty
you.
name of Jesus, I say jail or hell for them all.
That's right.
Rest in forever heavenly peace, all our babies. In Jesus' name I pray, amen, and thank you.
Amen.
Did Alicia want to speak?
Alicia.
She said no.
You said no.
Okay. Of the people that couldn't be here today, just wanted to raise up Willie McCoy's name. Willie was killed in 2019, fell asleep in the Taco Bell and woke up to 55 rounds. He took 38 to his chest and head. The officer stood over Willie and said, "Don't give him a chance. And if he moves, you know what to do." And the cop said, "Yep." And as soon as he moved, they opened fire on him, and he died in the Taco Bell drive-thru. Since then, we've learned about the officers bent their badges to celebrate killing Willie. Also came out recently in court that all these families obviously are close. They're connected because they share this common grief. But we learned that it went a little further in Vallejo because the officer that killed Angel Ramos, his badge was bent. And then a little over a year later, the officer that killed Ronell Foster, his badge was bent by the officer that killed Angel Ramos. And so they were sort of passing the baton on as they killed our babies. And so we just want to raise up Willie's name. We continue to litigate. We continue to force them to give us all these documents, and they're trying to drag it out. But at the end of the day, we're going to unearth all of these secrets that they've been keeping.
That's right.
Because that's the only thing that's going to make the community safe from the police. We got some folks that I know were Sean's folks, and do you guys want to say anything?
Yeah, we just want to thank the community for coming out and celebrating Sean Monterosa's life. You know, what happened 2 years ago over here, it was a tragedy, you know, but we thank y'all for staying solid and continue to support Sean Monterosa's family, friends, and loved ones. For the other impacted victims, you know, we send our condolences, our love, and our prayers to all of you guys, you know, for standing right here, right now, and shutting it down. You know what I mean? We from the bottom of our heart, we mean that. You know, from the heart that we care about y'all as well, as much as y'all care for us. So we thank y'all, and like I said, we just blessed to all of y'all. Thank y'all for coming out.
Thank you.
And before we leave, let's not forget to say his name. Sean Monterosa! Say his name!
Sean Monterosa!
Say his name!
Sean Monterosa!
Say his name.
Sean Monterosa.
Thank you guys so much. Like I said, you know, the families need and appreciate you. It's hard when it's just the families staring at each other. At the end of the day, the families are going to be here. And we hope that the goodness of the hearts of the people of the community will have them come to be here to hug the family, to let them know. It's hard to fight a fight for justice against the system when the community is not here. So I appreciate the faces, especially the ones I see all the time. We appreciate and love you guys.
Love you.
Feel free to occupy space for Sean here. I would ask everybody to make sure that we take our garbage with us. Because otherwise they're going to be calling us a bunch of dirty whatever. And so we always make sure to clean up after ourselves.